There's another interesting thing that everybody's waiting to see, sort of the outcome of. It's the melt of the snow. Like, I mean,
Hallelujah.
You live in this world, but
Hallelujah. Explain to me what it looks like for our economy. Like, do the tariffs come on Tuesday and my world falls apart on Wednesday? Do I think the housing market is going to fall off a cliff?
So this is. I'm like, can we get to this? Because this is what I want to do. Tariff Tuesday.
Tariff Tuesday.
Here we are. I don't think we ever thought we'd get here. I don't think anybody ever thought we'd get here, right?
No, I think everyone thought, like I did and you did, that at the 9th hour somebody would come in and talk sense, and we'd never find ourselves here. And the problem with being here more than anything is because you listen to economists and you hear what's going on, and the problem is, and like I told my realtors this morning, we are not in a position to tell people what's about to happen.
Ever.
We don't know.
Ever.
I can tell you where I think the rates are going to go. I can tell you where I think the housing market's going to go. We are not in a position to say, well, this is going to happen now, so the tariffs are going to do this, because we've never been here before. And so no one really should be out there saying, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen.
The other funny thing to that equation is, for the last 3 years, we're like, let's get to 2025. 2025 is the turning point.
Nick, I know. And there's so many people that were hanging on to get to 2025. And now we're here.
The real estate investor community, right?
Man.
You remember those people, the real estate investment community? They were like, let's just hang on till 2025.
So many people have been hanging on.
Sellers,
hanging on.
buyers,
hanging
everybody.
on. Mostly sellers, I think.
Nobody expected this.
No.
So 2025 was supposed to be the TSN turning point in the real estate market, in the interest rate market as well. It's starting to be. We'll get to that. But nobody expected this. If anybody ever looked up our text conversation, it's multiple times a day. What do you think is going to happen with this? I don't know. What's happening in your world? What's happening in my world? It literally changes every day.
I feel like right now, like we're making this video on Tariff Tuesday. The tariffs were implemented this morning. I feel like by the time we get this rolled out, things could be completely different.
Yeah.
Because we have no control over what's coming at us at any given time right now.
Yeah.
What we do have control over, though, is letting people know what's happening with interest rates right now.
Okay, so let's start with interest rates. Okay, so anybody that's been listening to these videos knows that bond pricing affects fixed mortgage rates.
Right.
We've been watching bonds go down. Bond pricing has been steadily. Okay. Now that slightly affected interest rates, and it consistently has.
The fixed rates.
And fixed rates have been going down. You've heard us talking about this since October. That's when they started going down. And, just before Christmas, we saw our first 3.99.
Yep.
First rate under 4% in like 2 years, 2.5 years, let's say. And they kept on going down. And then more lenders got on board. So that 3.99 was not just, only available through one lender. It was a few lenders, which is great. Roll forward to today, one lender in the market has a 3-year fixed rate for insured mortgages, so traditionally first-time home buyers, at 3.87. Now other lenders are starting to match that rate.
Of course.
Which is great. But wait, bonds went down significantly yesterday and today. That 3.87 was based on bond pricing from last week, which was much higher.
Exactly.
Does that suggest that fixed rates will go down? Yes. Absolutely.
And the bond market is very forward-looking.
Yes.
So the bond market anticipates trouble, which is why the bond market keeps dropping.
So that's a great point. Let's talk about that, okay? So a flurry of phone calls have come in the last 3 days. I'd like to lock in my rate. I'd like to refinance early, set myself up for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing trouble in the economy. Tariffs, Trump, election, all trouble for the economy. Guess what it means for mortgage rates?
They're going down.
They go down. Let's think back to the pandemic. World crisis, lowest interest rates in history.
Exactly.
When bad things are happening, interest rates will inevitably go down. Now, some people say to me, this is a funny one. People will say, the economy was so bad over the last few years because the government increased rates so much. Let's think about that for a sec. When in fact what happened was the economy was so good, inflation was so high, meaning people were spending so much money, they had to slow it down and increase interest rates. That's what happened.
Yep.
But the perception is that, things were so bad because of the rates, and they were like, I mean, it caused a lot of grief for a lot of people.
Of course it did, but they were a solution to a already
exactly
problem.
It happened because things were good, so now we're rolling into all of these things that are just horrible for the economy, and potentially even worse for the economy. I mean, it's changing every day. Interest rates go down.
I asked this question to some economists about almost 2 months ago now.
Yeah.
And I said, explain to me what it looks like for our economy. Like, do the tariffs come on Tuesday and my world falls apart on Wednesday? And they said, no. The automotive sector will feel it first.
Yeah.
But for most people to feel this, it probably will take 2 quarters.
Yeah, that's interesting. So likewise, I spoke to an economist, and the interesting thing, we were talking about this right just before we started filming here, is, the entire car may not be manufactured in Canada and shipped to the States, and the entire car may not be manufactured in the States and shipped to Canada and subject to tariffs, for example, both ways. The engine may be manufactured in Ontario and shipped down to Illinois, and then the car is sold. Therefore, the impact of the tariff is just on the engine itself.
Right.
Net to the consumer, maybe an additional $1,000, depending on how many other parts were shipped in from Canada, Mexico, et cetera, et cetera.
And depending on how many times it had to go back and forth.
So let's talk about it locally. There's auto manufacturing in Simcoe County.
That's a big one.
It's a huge one.
So, I mean,
huge employer.
A huge employer. So I remember when Honda laid off back in the day, and the economy was slower. I guess it was 2018.
Yeah, okay.
So we felt it almost immediately, because we'd have clients calling and saying, look, my hours were just cut. I just got laid off. We've heard it from the college here in town.
For sure.
And those are really good jobs. So
it made the news.
And those are really good jobs
Yeah.
for this economy. And Honda are really good jobs.
Yeah.
For this area.
Always has been.
So it's going to be a tough one to replace. Do I see a shutdown coming? Probably. I would imagine that, they'll start with like not running 24 hours. They'll cut down a shift typically what Honda does is let their contracts go first and just leave their full-time employees working.
Yeah.
But I mean, that will affect us. It will affect us because people are living paycheck to paycheck now. I can't imagine lumping in. But our government has stood up and said, we are there for you. There will be incentives coming. So, I mean, do I think that everybody at Honda will get laid off and nobody will have any money? No, I don't believe that, because the government will step in, much like they intervened during the pandemic.
Totally. And specific to that auto manufacturer, it's like we've already heard from those people over the last 2 years or 3 years that overtime was eliminated. So as times became a little worse, overtime was eliminated. So you're right. Contract employees will probably get affected next, so they can keep full-time employees with full-time hours. And then when they remove a shift, that's when it starts to impact people. When their hours go from, a full week to like a 0.8, like a 40-hour to a 32-hour, for example, that's when people start feeling it.
Well, and I mean, it's hard enough to qualify right now. Can you imagine going back to requalify and saying, well, I'm down to 32 hours now, or what have you, right? It's a tough one.
Well, banks hate uncertainty of their borrowers as well.
Everybody hates uncertainty.
Right. But, historically, if we get a phone call, hello, I need a mortgage. I was referred to you by Peggy Hill. Great. Thanks very much. Looking forward to working with you. Tell me a little bit about yourselves. Oh, we both work at Honda full time. I'm like, check. Like, easy, right? 2 T4s, bunch of pay stubs, easy. They both make great money. That's where this starts to disrupt the local economy, right?
And that's my worry. My worry is locally. It's how many people are affected by this, and it's not just Honda.
Yeah,
it's the suppliers. It's the parts suppliers in Alliston, in
logistics
here in Barrie, like
transport.
That's that, and it all. I mean, this economy is so intertwined. That's why when I talk about real estate, I always feel like we're too big to fail in a way, because we feed so many other industries because of it. but we are going to start feeling it, and people really need to buckle in and pay attention to what's happening. And we're going to have a tough time.
I agree.
But do I think the housing market is going to fall off a cliff?
So this is I'm like, can we get to this? Because this is what I want to know. Okay. So one of our most recent text conversations said exactly that. So I said, Peg, bonds falling like a stone. Interest rates, interestingly enough, are following. They're going down. It arguably, we will see uninsured conventional mortgage rates, i.e. mortgage renewals, people that have mortgage renewals coming up, hit 3.99% very soon, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, this renewal wave, everybody's like, I'm going to go from 2 to 6. No, you're going to go from like 2 to 3 point something.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
Right? So if and when that happens, rates go down. Usually
home prices go up.
Home prices go up. So if rates go down and home prices don't go up, that's a very bad thing.
It is
market activities.
But it's also a reflection of our economy, because if you have rates coming down and there are buyers, like if half the buyers lose their jobs, then you only have half the buyers, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's going to put pressure on houses.
Interesting.
That's what's going to put the pressure on the prices, because if all of a sudden we're dealing with very low rates, all of a sudden it's opened up to a lot more buyers. However, half those buyers lost their jobs. Now we're down to half the buyers.
Okay, so that's interesting because it increases the supply side and the demand side.
Yep.
So it lowers the demand side. I mean, more people making less money, there's less demand, i.e. less buyers in the market.
Right.
But it also could negatively affect the supply side. People's jobs get affected and they say, we can't afford this home anymore. We don't need to live south of Barrie and Alliston anymore. I mean, I'm being extreme, but
Yep.
If those homes all come to the market, it increases the supply side.
And again, that's why I always tell people, yes, rates matter. Yes, consumer confidence matter. But the one thing that really matters is supply and demand. That's what dictates our market. So that's what we're watching very closely, besides watching the bond market very closely, because it's the only thing that really affects fixed rates.
Yeah. So fixed rates are coming down. We know that. They'll probably continue to come down with everything that's happening. That's great as well. There's another interesting thing that everybody's waiting to see, sort of the outcome of. It's the melt of the snow. Like, I mean,
hallelujah.
You live in this world, but
hallelujah.
I mean, people are going to want to hear about this, so I'm just going to talk about it. Okay, let's dive away from mortgage rates and everything else right now for a sec. There's 6 feet of snow in backyards.
I know.
Are buyers saying, I don't like, take me out when I can see the grade of the backyard, the interlocking? Like, I mean, most of these houses that have pools, you could literally say to somebody, yeah, there's a pool back there. Promise you.
Yeah. You may see it one day.
Yeah, snow melts. Oh, I thought there was a pool back
there. I guess in a little way that matters. It does matter. People have been beaten down with this snow. And I mean, a lot of it is the maintenance of the properties too. Like, getting the snow off your roof. All of a sudden, this became a thing. Getting the snow off your deck, because now it's too heavy, and you're worrying about
$2,000 to have my roof shoveled.
Decks collapsing and roofs caving in. So there's been a lot of variables. Yeah. But at the end of the day, will a buyer buy a pool that's under 6 feet of snow? 100%. Okay. If the price is right, they will buy it. If the rates are good, they will buy it.
Okay. So like, you don't think the current conditions outside are necessarily like holding up the market?
No, I don't. But I think they're making people like anxious, because enough already. We've had enough snow already.
Okay, so
stop adding to my plate.
Peggy Hill, March 2025. Rates are going down. Bonds are going down. They're going to drive rates even lower. Snow melts. Birds are in the air. You can smell the spring. How
many power sales are listed, Nick? Because that's something that we've been seeing more and more frequently. We hadn't seen a power sale in so many years, and now there's power sales hitting.
Do you want me to explain that to you? We've talked about this before. Home prices are still above 2019 levels.
Yes, we're at 2021 levels.
Okay. So the interesting thing is, the first wave of people that had trouble, they refinanced in 2020, 2021. that equity got eaten up. Okay. That was the first wave of power sales that we saw. And those people used that money, and then maybe they got a private second mortgage. Most of the power sales that we saw happen in 2024, 2023, had like a private lender, a private second mortgage. All of the equity had been sucked out of those homes. Okay. They're at their limit. The market continues to get a little bit worse. Guess what happens when the mortgage comes up for renewal? The lender doesn't want to renew.
No.
The appraisal can't support the value. They have to sell. But wait, it was appraised for a very high value, 2020, 2021, that sort of thing, right? So when all the equity is sucked out of the home and you still can't appraise it to get more equity out of the home, that's when the power sales happen. We talked about one recently, you know. Yeah. You're going out for one of your team members was going out for a listing presentation. Property title in Ontario is public record. Anybody can look it up. You can go down to the land title office, swipe your visa, and look up what you and I own on our house.
And it's not even expensive.
No, it's like $8. You know, we have a tool, we have a system. We just, because we do it so often, we just pull it up. That person, we did the math, and by the time they paid commission and their mortgage penalty and some closing costs, they weren't walking away with any money. They're walking away negative. So we're in this like tug of war where I say to you, it's got to sell for this, and you're like, but it's only worth that. That's when a power sale situation happens, because the person has accumulated more debt, and if they were able to use their home as an ATM up until recent days, they would consolidate the debt. They would take out some extra cash, and they would weather that storm.
Right.
Now they can't
all
sell.
The storms have been weathered.
Right. Exactly. There's been no appreciation for arguably 5 years. We're at 2020, 2021 levels, and we're at 2025. So if they bled out that equity, well, you're here. So 5 years from when they, refinanced at the high point, yeah. And 4 years from when we refinanced at the high point, there's no equity left.
Well, and we talked about it before about 2025 and everybody waiting for 2025. I think a lot of sellers have been waiting for 2025. We had so many people take their homes off the market in the fall and say, I'm waiting for the spring. Yeah. And now that the spring is almost here and the conditions are not better, maybe worse, we got a problem. Yeah. We get a problem. So that's where we're kind of at. That's what's going to dictate what happens in our future, is how many of those sellers are going to hit the market and how many buyers are still going to be able to purchase. So that's what we're waiting for, Nick.
Okay, let's roll forward. Okay, 26, 27. Probably we'll see 15% market gains in 2 years, let's say, right? 5%, maybe 1 year a little bit higher, that sort of thing. If you look at that value 2 years from now, right? If that value was here today, meaning we saw 15% market increase versus 2020, 2021, those power sales probably wouldn't be happening.
Nope.
Because people would have a higher value. They'd have accessible equity. They would refinance again. I'm talking about the people that are going power sale right now. I'm not talking about generally the everyday consumer.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you bought in 2020, 2021 and you've refied, yep. Or you refied in 2020 or 2021. Yep. There's just no equity.
There's no equity.
There's no equity, and we've been in an economy that's used to at least a 5% jolt every year. So I mean, we run into some trouble. But not across the board or anything. No. There's no pandemonium out there where everything's going power sale. Nothing like that. It's just haven't seen any in so long that we see them now, and it's surprising.
And that's it. And again, we can both agree, if we saw a 20% market appreciation, bang, overnight, the power sales would be gone.
Yep.
They'd be gone. Because
and we can both agree that going forward, no, we don't know what's going to happen with tariffs. No. However, we can forecast what's happening to rates. Which is why we do these videos so often, to keep people abreast of what's happening.
Let's talk about how it affects the renewal wave in closing, maybe. Okay. So all of these mortgages are coming up for renewal, right? Like a considerable amount of the mortgages.
The next 2 years.
In Canada.
This year and next year.
That's right.
Boom.
So everybody was concerned, and we've talked about how you weather that storm. In a lot of cases, you refinance, you extend your amortization, you come up with a payment that's going to work for you, right? But what's actually going to happen now is
The rates
tariffs,
are going to be low.
Trump, elections. It's going to drive the rates down. All of these people that are coming up for renewal, while it may be bad for the economy, it's a godsend to the renewals.
Not such a shockwave.
Nope.